Jerry Lentz. I'm from the thumb of Michigan. I got into Bigfoot this is going on 5 years now. I've been doing my own little thing, my own little research as far as being out in the country. And I, uh, I own probably about 70 acres of land. I inherited from my dad. 25 of it's wooded. I'm 3 miles from Lake Huron, and I'm 3 miles to Black River, which the other way. East is Lake Huron, west is Black River, river that flows into Lake Huron. I got into really wasn't into Bigfoot for really wasn't my thing. I was really kind of like a ghost hunting type person. I was in two or three groups of that at one time, and that just kind of like I don't know. It just I shouldn't say I didn't want to do it anymore. It just got to the point where that I don't know how to say it, but groups are one group think they know more than the other, and then that type of thing, and I didn't like that at all. So, and I didn't leave it. I just kind of didn't affiliate too much with it anymore. And what really got me into Bigfoot was it was years ago. I was cleaning my dad's pond and wood knocks. I didn't know what a wood knock was. Nothing. I had nothing to know about Bigfoot whatsoever at that time. But it was during the day. My wife heard it too when I was cleaning the pond, and it was in the woods, and didn't think anything of it. And then as time went on, um, the wood knock thing, it started up and kind of went from there to I had a major surgery done and I was off in the summer when my son was off for school, and we always had bonfires every pretty much every night when he was off. Um, I'd always play around and hitting trees with a 2x6 and making all kinds of noise at night to see the sound at night, Then we done that for a year. I probably done that for just playing around probably for that summer. And then it was one that it all started pretty much uh I done that again when my family was back by the woods, and it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I heard a wood knock in the secondary woods of mine, and it came, I don't know, it did a wood knock, that's what people call them. I don't know, but it had a real, like, I don't know, a strange uh knock to it. And I got thinking, who's 1 o'clock in my our woods, And then I did it again, and everybody's like, we're all looking at each other at the fire. It says, who's back there? It says, nobody. So let me do it again. Everybody be quiet. We did it again. Now the sound is coming up closer to the backwoods. So we're all sitting there. I told everybody, just be quiet, just listen. And it kind of took off from there. It kind of like went from there. Now something's going on back here, and speeding forward, going ahead now. I hunt a lot. So I was back probably this would be 5 years. So my first year, and I wasn't even looking for any type of thing of that. So I'm walking, looking for deer tracks and stuff like that. And I seen this like wood structure type thing, and it was really quite unique. I think it's always been there. I just never noticed it. So I'm sitting there because there's snow on the ground. It was really visible. It was like three trees intertwined, all th three live trees that come together, and it kind of took off from there. And then I found another bigger one, a pretty good sized one. I got thinking, what? This doesn't make sense. And then I started doing my own little research on different things that people's found, and it kind of took off from there. That As far as what got me into it, that kind of drove me every year. I do my own little trinket things, marbles, all kinds of. I mean, I got all kinds of unique stories, but uh, yeah, it. So I've had a few people look at them, few people, and they were all kind of like amazed by, It'd take two or three, four people to do these if that's a person doing it. So I never outrule people. I don't,
Yeah, so
because
tell
people
me,
do roam around, but the area this is in is just doesn't make sense to me that, it's a person. I mean, there's always that possibility. We know this. There's always possibility people trying to play games. But the thing about that is no one knew at that time frame that I had anything to do with this, that I was into Bigfoot. I kept to myself about a lot of things. I didn't tell a lot of people. Um, it uh, it just kind of went from there to what I'm doing now more every year.
hi, I'm Linda Eastburn of Linda Eastburn YouTube channel, and I have a new book out called Threshold to Encounters. It's about 40 years of research and experience with all of these wild cryptids that many of you I know have encountered yourself. You can find it on Amazon.com. You would bring people in, you wouldn't tell them that you thought this might be related to Bigfoot. So describe what the structures look like more specifically.
There is one that is like three live, not real big. Looks like whatever made it was probably smaller, because it had three bent, like one would come down like this, one would come down like this. It was like this, and like this. And they hooked together. They're like this is perfectly done. However, whoever did it, what did it, knew enough to lock them. Like this one would lock into this one. This one would go over top and hook down where a V branch, a Y branch would go down and hook onto another live tree. And then there would be like there was a 20, 25-foot deadfall was in a crotch that come all the way across and laid in the dead center on the tip and held it down. And the strange thing about that one specifically is, I tell everybody this, and a couple of the individuals I showed, I says, "Tell me that don't look like a grave underneath it." And there's a mound there, right underneath it. It looks like something's buried there, and it's got moss like you would see at a cemetery. There's moss on the top. Well, anyways, from that one, there's two other ones that are like in a line. And the after I found that one, I found the other one shortly the same time pretty much, and that one had big fall, and it was all like crossed, and it was crossed, and it was crossed, and then there would be one big branch, one big, I mean, I'm talking, you're talking branches, trees like this. And that was kind of a neat outfit too, because when the main one was hooked up probably 30 feet in the air, and it was like like a Y branch that was hooked in, and the other ones was all like holding it. It was like it was so noticeable when you look at it now, when you look at it now. But and then in between of those two was another one that was like, it's hard to explain. It was like whoever picked out the branches did and stuck them in the ground and leaned them up against a tree, and it was like a Y-shaped thing too, with a cross piece and another piece that came in. It went like this, and it came and it was threaded through, stuck in the ground. They both were stuck in the ground, like something had jabbed them in the ground. So I sit there trying to fumble along. How these fall just like that? You sit there and you think, well, that one broke off, that one could have broke off, but it doesn't. None of it, none of it. I could maybe some of it, but not all of it. It just didn't seem like. And then from those three, there was a TP type thing. It was massive. It was like three of them, like one was this way, hooked in this tree. One was hooked in the same spot, and then there was another big one that come across this way. It was noticeable, and it's like, now what's the odds of that falling that way? So you get your head spinning on that. So them are the three I would have to say things that drew my attention that didn't make no sense. Like I said, I've showed a couple of people later on it, and they all said the same thing. They said, man, if somebody made this, they had to have had more than one person to do it because not one person's going to do something like that. So that's what banged me into it. Once I found that one, it was like, no, something's going on back here. And I've been doing all kinds of other things.
Were all of these on your property, these structures?
Yes, all in that one woods, the bigger woods. That's the woods that I have is in the middle of us, in the primary, in the middle of a section. I mean, you're talking a half a mile because I know the properties, my neighbor's property and that. It's a half a mile, pretty much all directions. You're half a mile this road, you're half a mile this road. It sits in the middle of a section, like right in the middle. And I have two ponds. That's another thing. I have a pond in that woods. I have a pond out by the road where you go back to it. Um, and I this is one other thing, and I want to show this before I forget, and I hope you can see this. I hung this in a tree. You see this hole? I put it, I had a marble, a big old giant marble in this. And I always bring this forward because this one blows my mind. It hung in the tree for probably, I don't know, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. And it was where the tree structure was, the big one. So I come back and I seen it was gone. So I looked on the ground. I see it, I see this on the ground and I could see where it was like ripped apart and the big marble was gone out of it. I uh so I picked this up and I brought it back. 3 days later I come back, the marble's laying where this was laying on the ground. I got thinking, there's no way I missed that. That marble's huge. It's green, really pretty green. And I says, well, okay, give for granted, maybe I missed it. All right. So I took the marble. I talked to Ronnie LeBlanc. I met him at a convention, and there was one part of the woods I would never touch. I would leave it alone. It was like a lot of deadfall. He says, just put something over there. Means you don't go over there. I said, I kind of leave it if this is what's going on, not to bother him. He says, no, put something over there. So I put a wicker basket over there, and that marble that I found at the other end of the woods, I put in that basket, and then it disappeared out of that basket. I mean, you're talking. I had a heck of a time getting it in. If you can see how big it was, a big marble about that big. You would say, how did I get it in there without breaking it? I got it in there without breaking any of these, whatever this stuff is made of. So that one there. I never did. The marble never did come back. So that was one of my things I've been doing, playing around with as far as putting out marbles, doing all kinds of different things.
Have you found any tracks at all on your property?
Um, in my earlier investigations or whatever you want to call it, my little research I was doing, there's two times. One time I thought it was a track, it looked like a track, but inexperienced as I was, eh, it looked like toes, it looked like a track. What did I take a picture? Did I do any of that? Nope, I didn't. What I know now, that would have never got by me as, you know, the research I learned, the do's and the don'ts, and I did something I shouldn't have. I should have paid more attention to that, and I didn't. So, do I have any evidence of it? No, just what I'm telling you. And there was another one I had trees planted, and one of them was pulled out. My buddy was there that time, and he said, I said, doesn't this look like a little tiny track right here? A little like kid's track. And he looks at it, he goes, you can see the toes? Because we have no bears here. There's no bears. Of course, bears get loose every now and then. That's has happened from these small petting zoos, but we don't have cougars. We don't have any of these uh, big carnivore animals besides coyotes pretty much around here. So kind of eliminate I can kind of eliminate the bear aspect, how they say bears leave, similar to human tracks. Far as that goes, no, but if I can enlighten something real quick so I don't forget to tell it, this my buddy it's been 3 years. He bow hunts in October, and he kept complaining to me about this light. 2 years in a row, he's seen this light come across the field, and well, I seen it. This year was the first time I seen it, and it looked like somebody with a flashlight, but it didn't look like a flashlight. I seen it on this hill on my edge of my uncle's property. So I'm watching from my blind. I see it go on. So I seen it go off. So I said, I know this person, if it's a person that's going to come down this hill, I'll be able to see them. And I see nobody. That was opening day of the 15th. Everybody think, oh, it's a hunter, it's a hunter. Okay. I don't think it was, but not after what I've put together here. So my buddy, he came the second day, it would have been the Saturday. He goes, I seen you come into the woods. I says, what do you mean? I said, I was in my tree stand. I watched you pull up with your car way on the other side of the field. I said, I seen you pull up and get out. He says, no, no. He said, there was a light behind you. He said, it was that somebody with a flashlight. It looked like a light of some sort. And he goes, and I go, well, my back was turned to it. I wasn't seeing it. And we kind of went on with that a little bit. And I says, I have this is what's called Indian wheat, sawweed or something like that it's called. It gets real tall. It gets like 10 or 12 feet tall. He said, I seen it where that fence row where you had your trees planted. I said, you can't see over there. I said, it had to be up in the air or it was on the ground. So now his head's spinning. He goes, well, I said, let's talk about the light you seen that one year and you're sitting in your tree stand. You flashed your light at it to let him know you thought it was a person. He says the light was coming at him, and he says as the light turned, the ball light, he called the ball light too, because he couldn't see anybody in front of the flashlight if it was a flashlight. He says the ball was like, he says, as we were talking about, he said, come at him, and then it went sideways, and the light didn't change angle. So then we were like, maybe what we're seeing is something else. I don't know. And it's in the thing, the thing about it that kind of different is that it all happened in that one field where I've seen it first time, he's seen it three different times. So we were really talking about that a couple of weeks ago. We were
Now,
really discussing about
is
that
this on your property or is this on your uncle's property?
on my property.
That's this on your
The light
property
I
as well.
seen was right. My light I seen was on the edge of his and mine. I think. I don't know what side it was on. I could only tell it was on the fence row.
Okay.
So,
And how far is that from the structures and things you've
it's
seen?
the field, so it's not far. It's the woods is right there, and the light he seen behind me was right on the edge of the woods. The light he seen the year before, 2 years before, three, 3 years before would have been out front of him of that woods because he sat in the woods. He could see it from inside the woods coming toward the woods. I seen it in the fence row, which would have been a little ways from the woods, but not far from the woods. So I don't know that has me um, really thinking about that one. And there was another one that I got a picture on my trail cam that Ron Moorhead was in West Branch, Michigan at Bigfoot Days, and he was on that documentary in talking about that tubular light that came through the woods. Well, I had a tubular light in one of my pictures. It didn't make no sense to me. So I told my wife, I said, I'm going to go talk to him, show the picture. And Ron Moorhead says, that's exactly what I seen. That's exactly what I seen. He goes, where'd you get that at? And I says, a small woods out in the thumb of Michigan. He goes, that's what I seen go through the woods. Exactly what your picture's showing. I said, oh, that's interesting. And then last year, I had one of my cameras pointing out the field. There was snow on the ground. Had a triangle lights that were like just like they say people see in the sky, like a light and then two. And it looked like there was no animal in the picture, but that three dotted thing. And then a deer came through after that photo, those three things wasn't there. So I can't explain that one either. I just know there's something there. I just don't. I again, um, I think it's some of that's Bigfoot. I think there's something more, something else going on too at the same time. You know what I'm saying? It's I
Sure.
think there's two different things, it seems like, but is it?
Exactly. It's hard to differentiate that. And I hear a lot of exactly like you're saying, there's some evidence of Bigfoot, but then there's some other light activity, and you just don't know where one starts and when and the other ends. As far as people in your community, has anyone else seen these types of lights around, or have you talked to them?
I talked to a lot of my friends that um live around, and a lot of them just don't they don't believe in any of it. A lot of the guys I know that are in the woods in this area, I'll ask questions like, have you heard anything strange? Have you heard anything, out of the ordinary all the years you've been hunting? And nope, 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 nope. You know how, some of my friends are pretty, they just do not want to believe. They do not have an open mind. So I do feel out a lot of people in, no, not that I'm aware of, the people I know that are in this area right here.
Have you brought
Um,
any people into your property and done any type of like weekend investigations there, or any further research?
no, no, I only had Brian Sawyer. He came out and we just looked, and the thing I have noticed and from my understand from my research, not my understanding, my research is this is um there's some things that may happen in the spring. In the fall is the biggest thing. The fall is the biggest thing from September, October are like huge. It's huge. When that stuff does happen, it happens that time frame. It doesn't happen in all summer. It happens in the fall part. So I think because I have a lot of acorns, my woods is just full of acorns. Both woods, both the woods are. So my theory is, and I'm not saying I'm right, but it seems activity pick up phenomenally in September and October, and then it just dies out, no more. So I think they come through here, and because I heard a lot of things to the south, more. I honestly, I think they come through here in the latter part of the fall. They, whether you want to call it migration or they have a staging point. I think my property as a staging point. They kind of like they may have different areas they go to, but my woods is it's nothing you would think out of this world type woods, but my neighbors to the east of my property have pine trees. I have acres of pine trees. I mean, just massive acreage. So, they got cover there. I went in there looking around on his property and just looking for anything for like bedding sites, any of that. I've not found any. So I think there's a place they stay somewhere. It's close, but I can't say that I'm right. I think that's what's going on. Because I heard of a individual that's keeping anonymous, real close, a couple of miles from my place, that what I heard, it's pretty quiet about it, but the individual says they're there all the time. It's a real thicket. That's all I know. That's the information. So I think they might, if that is the case, might be going mine to theirs or whatever. I think it's the same one or two, maybe. I don't know. Honestly, I think there's a couple of different ones if there is because of the different things from year to year. It's always something different. I'll put stuff here. It will only happen here. It won't happen over here. Now, last year, it always happened over here and not over here. And like I said, do I have the answers? No, I'm speculating. It's just what I've learned or what I have. seen happen to myself, the stuff I've done. I don't understand how come year to year it's different. Like one year, nothing hardly ever happened. Now, last or year before last, nothing. It just went dead. There was like nothing was moved, nothing. And then last year, I had a lot of things happen. So again, it seems like when I had it patterned pretty good when things would happen. No more than 5 days, no less. Uh, then if I go back, there was one time I went back, I'd go back every other day. I had stuff going on just constantly that one year. If I knew what I knew now, I'd had somebody come out because I think they were there all pretty much quite a bit of the time. Again, like I said, I say I found that no later than 5 days something would get moved, and uh, no earlier than 3 days. So I had a pretty good pattern on. I knew when to go back and not to go back. It seemed like I don't know.
Do you suppose
Um,
there might have been a juvenile there at that time? Because sometimes they can be more playful and enjoy kind of that gifting process and interaction a little bit more, even though this is not much interaction, but still, they seem to be more inclined to do things like this. So, do you suppose there might have been a juvenile there at that
yeah,
time?
I think you're probably right on that one because it was that time that yes, I do think that. You're right. Yeah, because there was stuff going on constantly. People would blow their mind if they seen some of the things that I was doing and how stuff was getting balanced. I mean, I had like no way that, and then your mind always goes like, man, is it a squirrel or is it a raccoon or is it a possum or you know what I mean? I tried to rationalize what was going on, but some of it did not make no sense. It did not. A lot of it doesn't. The one other thing that happened, the last a real big thing as far as tree knocks go, and I'll put this out there, was this happened 2 years ago. My buddy was going back. This would have been on a Saturday or Friday afternoon in October. He went back to take corn to his feeder, and as he came back, because you can drive through the one woods and go around to the backwoods, and he called me on the phone. I was in the big city at that moment. He goes, "Are you out here tree knocking?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Just heard a tree knock. I called you instantly when I heard it." And I go, "No," I said, "I'm almost home." I said, "It's not me." I said, "I don't play those games." I said, "I'm not the one to try to hoax. I'm not that person." And it freaked him out. He goes, "Oh my gosh," and so just as he hung the phone up, he said the tree knock on the front woods. There's the front woods and the backwoods. He was in the backwoods. The closest to him, he heard the tree knock. He said he heard it again the next time was going away, like it was moving away from him. At that time, there was a big cornfield, so he was like, he was like, I said, if that was that Squatch, I said, you drove through that woods, it watched you. I said, I think it knew you, because it's seen you go back there a lot. Again, this is my interpretation, that it knew who he was. And he goes, well, why did it tree knock twice? One thing I always do is when I'm done, I go to the front woods and I knock twice and I leave. I do that all the time. And I said, it was strange if you think about it. It knocked once, and then the second time it was going away, you heard the knock, and then you didn't hear it anymore. So that was an interesting thing that happened to him.
Do you
I
still
said,
hear
whatever
the
was in,
Do you
I
still
said,
hear the
whatever
tree?
was in that woods watched you go through there with your car, your little car, and it was probably watching you. It had to have been watching you because it was on that end of the woods. You would have been direct line because you were outside the woods. And he's like, oh geez, he was like, you got something going on here. And they says, I can't explain it either, but I think you got some activity or something going on. So he's kind of a he kind of listens for sound. And I bring this up real quick too. This year when he was hunting, we've heard the snap pop sound. My son and I heard it for the first time, kind of like before I was really getting into Bigfoot. We heard the snap pop sound right beside us going along the edge of the woods, and this was in October. And we heard it once. We both stopped and so what was that? Like, my son is kind of like he rationalizes a lot of things. He goes, I don't know. So we walked a little ways and did it again. I says, it's coming from right there, right inside the woods. We don't see it. There's nothing there, where I'm pointing. That was the second time. And we go a little ways again, and it happened again. The snap pop sound. It's like, what is? I says, we played a lot of paintball, and we knew the woods really good. And I told my son, you run around this way. I'm going to run around this way. I said, whatever's there, we're going to see it. We're both going to be on the high ground, so we'll be able to see. He ran in, I ran in, I see nothing. So we come back out and we're talking. I said, my son goes, I don't know what that is. And as we're walking out, it happens again for the fourth time. So we're sitting there. My boy's hands goes up in the air. I don't know what it is. You're telling me four times in a row we heard the exact same sound. Well, going back to my buddy this year hunting, he heard a pop sound. So he says, I know that sound because he's heard it before too. So, and this is in the winter now. So in October, November here. So he gets out of his blind, he walks up on the hill. So he told me about when he got home. So I said, I'm going to go out tomorrow. I'm going to go look for tracks, in the snow. I couldn't find anything. I walked around the woods, but I don't know what that crack, snap, pop sound is. Crack, pop sound is. That was something that I don't know if it is one making sounds with their mouths. I don't know, but it was exactly the same sound that four times that we heard it. So in that
You're still
backwoods
here,
where the
and you're
tree
still
showed.
hearing those. You're still hearing those knocks.
He was the last one to hear it. He heard it this year. So I haven't. I mean, I hear a lot of I know my bird sounds and stuff that, in the October time, I know what birds are around. And I tell you, I've heard some sounds that just didn't correlate with birds. I mean, I'll tell this one. I went into the woods and I heard this just as soon as I was come around the corner, I heard this bird sound. It was real weird. It was different. I couldn't even do it. So I'm walking. I heard it and it drew my attention right away. So as I start coming in the woods, I heard it once. I walked up on the hill. I thought I heard it again in the back. So I'm looking around, I can't see anything. So I turn around, I kind of did my little thing and come back out and did it two more times when I came out, like out of the woods, it did it. And then when I was leaving, it did it. So I don't know. It sounded like somebody was doing a bird sound to me that sounded similar, but it didn't sound the same. It sounded odd, an odd sound. I mean, I know birds can make different sounds. Young birds can make different sounds when they're younger, but it didn't sound normal to me, I guess. That's how to put it.
So, do you
Um,
think that they're trying to communicate with you at all through these various sounds and the taking of the marbles? Have they ever left you anything?
that's the thing, that I've never had anything um, uh, gifted back. No. But I really, with the marble thing is um, that it seems to, and this is something I did this year. I what I did was there was this root, so I can explain this real quick. I had a root and I had three size marbles, a big one, a medium one, and a small one. So I put them in the root and I put rocks around them, right? The rocks that hold them in there tight. Well, they'd keep getting flipped out. I got thinking, well, a squirrel's doing it. So I put a cage around it. Like, I put a cage around, tried to see. And the last year, all three were taken out and they were put in a row, from big to small, just like I had it when I had them inside the little cage. So that there was kind of over the top for me because it had to be a person or a human, whatever, had to have gone in and picked them out, and set them. Like I had them here, here, they were lined up over here. Something did it again. No, I've never been gifted. I can tell you that right now. That's what I kind of want, but if it happens, it happens. It seems like they liked whatever's doing with the marbles, like moving them around and putting them in rows and putting them underneath here, like there was a root that had a hole in it, and marbles would be in the hole. And I'm not saying that a squirrel couldn't do it. A squirrel can do it. That's why I went to these bigger marbles, making it to where it's how do you say it? It's not easy for an animal to do it. It'd have to be physically moved. You know what I mean? That's the newest thing that I've been doing, and they're taking them out of there. Something is, whether it's a human or something else.
Exactly. Let's go back a little bit to these structures and the mound that was inside that structure. About how large of a mound was that?
It I would have to say it's probably oh 4 and I don't know. I wouldn't say it's 4 foot. It's bigger than that. I would say uh, it's not a huge mound, but I would say probably pretty close to 6 foot.
Six
But
foot
the
tall.
mound, but
So
it's
we're
it
talking
it
height, right?
yeah, it's
Height.
really high, but it comes up like this and mounds up really perfectly at the top, and then it's like it's positioned this way as I'm holding it, and all the things are bent right over, pretty much over top of it, like
So
right over.
this structure wouldn't have been used for something to be inside of it. In other words, it just kind of encompassed this large
That's
6 foot mound, right?
yes,
Now,
that's what
how would that mound develop if it were just a natural phenomenon?
I don't know. It just and everybody, had a few people, individual says, "Why don't you dig it?" No, I'm not digging it up. I'm not gonna play that. But listen, we're gonna, I'm gonna. There was Indians in this area. I know this for a fact because my buddies that bought his mom's place, which is a mile, 3/4 of a mile from the section to his house, they found arrowheads when they were kids out in the field. When the farmer worked the field, they were finding arrowheads all the time. So I can say that there was Indians here, definitely. There's no question about that. My cousin on the river has found Indian heads. Yeah. So is there something with that too? Could it be that? Could it be, I don't know what people did back in the day when they buried their, it looks like a something's buried there. It just has that indication now, like you say, it could have been from the water. It could be. I shouldn't say that I know that for a fact. But it sets up back far enough, like where the low part of the hill is. Like there is a little bit of a ravine that comes through there, but it sets up on the higher part of the ravine. I guess you could say it could be runoff. I shouldn't say it's not, but it just seems out of place. When you walk through there, you look at it and you go, well, for me, I'm very observant of everything now, so I pay attention to a lot of things, and I got that way since I've been doing this. I I can't explain any more than that. If I had a picture to show you, which is a bad time right now for a picture of it because of the snow and the leaves and stuff. It's just you can see it because I know where it's at, but yeah, it's very interesting what's there. Like you say, could it be from the water? It could be over the years. But what throws me off a little bit is where how that branches and stuff are right there. For that to happen too, how long it's been there, I don't know. Those three tree things that are been over, they're still alive, so they're not dead by no means.
So they haven't been there that long on top of this mound.
I don't think so. No, I don't. Um,
what purpose would you think that a structure to be put on top of this mound would serve?
exactly. I don't know if it's a marker showing. I mean, to let if these creatures are coming through, to let them know that something's buried there. I don't have an answer to that one. It
Right.
just seems. And the other thing too, I know we're spin away from it a little bit is there when I all my trails that go everywhere in the woods are all logs across them, trees pushed over or whatever you want to call it. Every trail I have. I mean, I've cut the trails and there'd be logs across them. And I had pointed out to my buddy, I said, look at this one. He goes, what's this? This log was stuffed in between the apple tree across the trail. There's no trees around this apple tree. Where does tree come from? I mean, it's literally was shoved across. That just happened out beginning of last year. Before that, there was a thorn apple and them big thorn trees. It was broke off 6 foot at the top. It was busted off this way into the trail. So I moved it. I moved it. And a week later, there was another tree that was across this way now. So now it's like this. It's like almost like I don't know how to explain it that something didn't want me to go down that path because all my paths everywhere have trees. That was the most significant one was the one where you could tell it was busted and that thorn stuff is not easy. A person couldn't do that. I don't care how strong you are. That stuff's like rubber and it was busted off. It didn't break. It was just like snapped off, like, come right down like where it was twisted almost like this. And it covered the whole trail. So my recent, and again, I'm gonna speed forward a little bit. Back where those tree structures was, I have a picture of another tree that's like busted off like 5 foot. Now I say 5.5 foot tall, and it's twisted and snapped like tw literally like twisted like this, and it's broke like you can tell it was twisted. And that's between them tree structures, right in that area, kind of like where you walk, where I walk. It's almost, and the other thing that happened too this year was the same path I always take to where that mound is and that tree structure is. There was between two trees. I always go down through, and then one time I come back, there was a tree like trying to block it, like where I went through, and I stood there and I looked at it and says, "What? This is right where I walk." It's almost like something put that there. Again, it could have fell that way. So I'm looking up in the trees. Okay, where did this come from? I'm looking up, these are all live trees. I mean, again, anyways,
So
um,
you mentioned earlier that you go to some conferences and you started noticing that there were the stories that people were telling about their
yes.
experiences, and you had a response to those. Tell me about some of these conferences and the people you've met and the stories you've heard that impressed you.
I've talked, the tree knocks. That's what interests me the most. So I've talked to Meldrum, I've talked to Lonnie LeBlanc, I've talked to um, the expedition, Maria, I talked to them, and my main question of them was always what tree knocks, what their philosophy, what their what their thoughts was. I know Meldrum thought they were drumming, somehow they drum with their chest. Ronnie LeBlanc said kind of the same thing. He says he thinks they do something with their mouth. They can make these loud pop sounds because the times that I heard you call tree knocks, even the earlier stages before where I was at now was they sound exactly the same sound. I don't know how you get the same sound off of a tree. You know what I mean? It's hard to do if you've done tree knocks like I have. I'm sure a lot of people have. It's hard to get that same sound, in my opinion, because if you hit the different tree, it sounds different. My buddy said the same thing. He said what he heard was same sound. It didn't change. It just sounded farther away. That's what interests me a lot. Because if I don't believe it's a Bigfoot hitting a tree. I think it's more than that. I think there's something else there. What else did I talk? And I talked to Ronnie LeBlanc about, um, like I said, moving stuff in different areas where you've done it before. Yeah, they're there. They're going to know something's there because they know the woods, and that happened. I mean, I went with one of his things to do. Um, who else have I met? I met so many people. I went 11 years, 10 years up to the Michigan Paranormal. That's Paranormal Con there up in the St. Sue Marie in Michigan. We went to that every year, and we've they're all done with that now. They're not going to have that no more. Apparently they're moving it down south somewhere. I guess that's the way I understood it. I
You'd
taught,
mentioned all these people and impressed you that there were so many life experiences that people had had, and the
yes,
similarities. The people couldn't just make this up. I mean, they just all seemed to chime in, which
yeah,
means some form of consistency, I guess, with the Bigfoot phenomena that people are experiencing.
yeah. There was a young girl that worked in the town store, and I didn't realize that she had one, and she was jogging in January, which would have been of last year. And it was over probably, I would have to say, 10 miles to the southwest of me in January. And she told her story. She was jogging. She seen this big black thing get up by a big ditch by this farmer's property. And so I proceeded to ask her when it was done. I like asking questions about different things. So I said, what direction was it going, Oh, it was going south. So my philosophy is to go south from here. I don't know. That seems to draw my interest. And the other people that were talking, and a lot of those, there was one, two, three of them discussed this portal thing, which one of the men was a friend of, was raised with. They were kids at the time, and one of the guys I work with talked about Mike Sexton. He's a woodsman, hardcore. I mean, it was just amazing the stuff he had to say about these things coming and disappearing. They're there and then they're gone, type thing. And walking through these things and walking back out of them. And two of them, I'll tell the two real quick, and they're their stories, not mine. The Mike Sexton was following two of them, and he was walking, and he said he went from, I think, like woods into like cattails, like instantaneously. So when he walked, he's looking around and says, "This does not work. What the heck?" So he turned around and seen his tracks in the mud, and he turned around and went back out, back into the woods. Like poof, he's in the woods now. That kind of had him going. And the other gentleman that was talking, that kind of really was interesting, was a Spanish guy. He had uh, he had seen something down by the lake, so he went to the lake. He says, and all of a sudden he's on the other side of the lake. Like, bam. Like, I was just over there. What am I over here? Type stories. So that one there, my wife said, well, he's here is a slip of time, time slip or whatever. You really didn't go anywhere. You were still there. So I don't know that way. And there was another lady said they were come and go off her property, which are all from Michigan here, like pop in, pop out, all the time on her property. Again, that
Do you think they're flesh and blood beings, or do you think they are some type of a paranormal creature?
I think they're flesh and blood, I think, but that's my opinion. I think there's abilities there of something that allows them to stay hidden. And I'm going to go to this. I don't mean to keep butting in on our conversation here a little bit, but another thing that happened to me, and that one bothered me the most. So I was going back my same trail. I go back and I hear this twig snap. And I'm always looking down. I'm always looking for tracks. I heard this snap, and I look and I see the twig actually break, like crack, and I see it break. I said, that just like something stepped on it. So I turn around and look around the tree. I'm leaning around, I'm looking. What in the heck did I just, something stepped on that, but there was nothing there. So I walked up to the hill, which is another ten yards. A tree goes down. Well, that freaked me out. I don't normally get freaked out. I go back there all the time. Nothing, they don't bother me. They haven't done anything if that's what it is to me. I don't feel threatened by them whatsoever. So I left, I went out. So I went back the next day and it was a tree that was like huge and it was alive and it was pushed over. Again, it could have been just a coincidence. I was in the right time, right spot that that tree fell, but it wasn't rotten. I mean, what did it? I don't know. Was it rotten? Well, all trees have weak points, a lot of them, not all of them, but some of them do. So, um, talking about that and one other thing that blew my mind that literally had my hair up was another time I came back out of my peripheral vision as I'm walking up my trail. I seen something black out of the corner of my eye, and when I turned, I heard a branch break, crack, and so I ran 10 yards up on the high point, and there was nothing there. There was something there. It was black, and it wasn't a bear because bears are not from this area, and if it is, it was one loose. I should have seen it. So how there's no way that the short distance, I know they say they can run fast and all this. It was all open. So I would have seen it would have never made it to the edge of the woods by the time obviously it did, whatever it was, just went poof, gone. I mean, didn't make no sense to me. I should have seen it. I seen it black out of the corner of my eye. I could see like something was bent over. As because I had my head down and it's right here. And if I would have had my head up, I would have seen it. So again, I have no explanation to that either. It's almost like they're there and they're not. They're visible. Are they invisible? Or everybody talks about this cloaking thing. I guess it's possible. I mean, something was there and it was gone like that. So
A lot of the Native Americans talk about Sasquatch, and of course they have different names for them depending upon the tribe, but they talk about them being of two worlds, and sometimes they're here in flesh and blood, and sometimes they exit and go elsewhere.
and what's your philosophy on it?
I'm still out on everything. I hear
I
all of these
just
stories from one end to the other, and I really think they're probably more inclined to be something that has some strange capacity. But we have limited perception as human beings. We can be easily deceived with what we see or think we see, or what we hear, or what we think we hear, and I don't have any doubt that Bigfoot exist in some capacity, but I'm not sure what they are.
and then I've used rocks before, stacking rocks. That was like the first thing I did. And going back to that, I was out here on my side of my property where I had my horses and where I mow, where the horses are not there now, and some trees were cut down. I still has me dumbfounded. There was a rock that was on top of the logs that I cut there. And I go, I know for a fact I didn't put that there, so I don't know if something came up and put it there. I know my wife didn't because I asked her, did you put that rock on there? See that rock? You can see it from the house here out there on that log. And she goes, no. So I don't know. It was a time I was playing around with rocks back in the woods. So I don't know if something knows right where I'm at. I don't know. I don't know how that rock got there, but that happened once. That
You
happened
know,
years ago.
one
So
of the things that I do notice in a lot of the interviews that I have is like as you become more curious and you know even your thoughts and your curiosity take you into the woods and look for things. It's as if you notice more things, of course, but also there tends to be then a picking up of interactivity between you and whatever it is that you're giving attention to out there. So whether they be a flesh and blood or whether they be something paranormal or whatever, um, it does sound like that there has been some initiation on their part to have some interaction here.
and I'll reflect this back in the ghost hunting days. This happened to me. A local town woman, and I'll tell the story real quick. She um, said she had ghosts and stuff in her trailer, and she had some really weird stuff going on, believe me. So she claimed that she was abducted by aliens, and I'll say this, and she was telling me the story about it. She was a school aide. She was a school aide when I was in school. She was a well-known person in the school system, and so she told a story about. I'll tell this real quick because I'll get to where I'm going to get at here. She had this burn mark on her back when she woke up in the morning. She didn't know what it was, and so she went to the school and let the science teacher, and he said that looks like a chemical burn of some sort. And then she went down to the dermatologist that I go to down in the city, and they had no explanation what it was. So she goes, "I'll take you out where the burn mark is out in the woods, where this burn mark was." I led me out. Myself, after all this happened, I knew right where it was at. So she takes me out to the woods, and well, this is where it was at, and it was all growed up, kind of like where it was at. That happened years ago. So as we're coming back, and this is mid-afternoon type thing, this is kind of a woods that's all cleared. I mean, you can see all through the woods. There's some big hardwoods. And as I'm walking out, we're walking out. She was beside me. I hear a tree, what I know now sound like a tree knock, whack, and it was right beside us. I mean, this. I'm looking at the tree. This is that happened that right there. I said, and she looks at me and she's freaking out, and so she starts speeding up, and then it did it again. Whack! It was right there. I mean, it was right there beside me. So I stopped. She took off running. She ran out. So I walk around. So I'm walking around the tree. Made no sense to me. Made no sense to me. But is there any correlation with that? Um, with aliens or whatever? Because it was. This would have been like maybe 3 weeks later, she calls me on a Saturday. She says, "Jerry, you got to come over here and see the fingerprints on my window." So I'm like, okay, she is, there's, she's out there a little bit, maybe. I don't know. And I decided not to. And so she goes, "Will you please come out here?" So I came out. It was due in the morning. She goes, "The handprints were on my window right here. 3 fingers." Was it 4 fingers? I think it was four. Yeah, 4 fingers. And I said, "Well, you have a camera right there." I said, "Why didn't you take a picture of that?" So we go out back, and I reached up on the window. I'm 6'1". My hand was still that far from where she's seen the hand. This fingerprint, she says it was long, elongated fingers. So I'm sitting there, what a fool. You know, I could have went and I didn't. So it kind of fell off from there. I guess what I'm getting at is the going back to the tree knocks. It it was a tree knot. Why? And I still think about that, as I'm talking about it. It's like, what's a tree knocks have to do with her showing me an aliens? And it supposedly said she was abducted. So I don't know. with all the things that I do think you really get in tune with things, whether you're a ghost hunter, Bigfoot hunter. I think some of us can get in tune with that much more than others can. And I know you've seen it, you've heard people talk. Um, you tune yourself, and I think whatever you're doing, whether it's your mind or whatever, it gets hooked in that realm or whatever it might be, and it intensifies the research you're doing. I don't, I think that's with ghost hunting, I know that is because we all have abilities, I think, and I think some of us more than others, and I think we can come in tune because if you listen to a lot of the Bigfoot guys, or the Bigfoot people that I know personally, if there's only I only know a couple, but they have a lot of experiences where most people go out in the woods looking for them, can't find nothing. But these people do it way more than some do, and I think it you're it it knows it or whatever, and it knows you're trying to whether interact with it or and you take notice it more, you notice more things like you were saying, you're in tune when you're out there. You're looking, you know what to look for. You can find things that most people can't find. It's like, oh, what's that? How'd you find that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you become very aware in your surroundings. But I agree with you. I think what we give our attention to, we do tend to resonate with, and more of that tends to happen for us. Jerry, I'm going to have to end our interview for today, but I thank you so much for all the information. And it sounds like your place has some definite activity there. And I hope you stay in touch with us and keep us informed if you find out more.
And I appreciate you, Linda, for having me on.
Okay, take care.